James, in a year where people are kind of questioning the value and also the risk of a Big Ten championship, as someone who's won it before, what exactly can a game like this do for a program?
Yeah, we're excited to play Oregon. Great opportunity, playing the #1 team in the country. We're excited about that. That's what we control. That's what we're focused on. Not focused on anything else. I mean, I understand the question, and I appreciate the question, but we're just focused on trying to beat the #1 team in the country, Oregon, in Indianapolis, in the Big Ten, and just totally focused on that and not any of the other scenarios or discussions.
Coach, you and Oregon both played Ohio State this season. What did you see from their film, if you've seen it against the Buckeyes, and also in your game against Ohio State? What did you take away from that game that you can apply to this game coming up?
Yeah, so, obviously when you have similar opponents, those games are valuable because you got perspective on both teams and both opponents. Obviously their game came down to a few critical plays. A couple of them on special teams. Joe Lorig was with us, and is now the special teams coordinator at Oregon, and has done a nice job. The basically deep dribble that they did where they hit the guy in the front line, that was a critical play in the game. Both offenses were able to move the ball and make plays. The thing that really kind of stands out when you look at Oregon is you want to stay out like everybody does, but you want to stay out of obvious passing situations. You want to stay ahead of the sticks. Starting fast against this type of team is going to be really important. We're going to have to play well for 4 quarters. You look at them statistically as well on film. They've been a dominant football team all year long. Obviously, the Ohio State film was good for us. That was a close, competitive game for us and for them.
James, what are the challenges of a team that combines size up front with speed behind it, whether it's offense or defense, but specifically on the defensive side? How does that challenge some of those things that you might want to do in a game?
What's the challenge with being really big and really fast?
Well, having both in different places.
Yeah, they're talented. They've done a really good job of recruiting and developing. To your point, they have size and speed and athleticism. They've done a good job of using it. They got some guys that are somewhat unusual in terms of their measurables for the position they play, specifically at defensive end. Got a ton of respect for their nose guard as well. But yeah, I think that's what everybody's trying to do, right? You're trying to get as many big athletes as you possibly can. We've talked about this in the past. On offense, you're trying to create space. On defense, you're trying to take space away. How do you do that? You can do that with size, in terms of weight and being sturdy and not allow people to get any movement on you. You can do it with size in terms of length and taking up space on the field. And then you can do it with speed in terms of being able to close space down as quick as you possibly can. And when you can have a combination of all those traits, then it makes for a very, very challenging opponent. And that's what they've been able to do against most of the teams that they've played. For us, we're going to have to be aware. There's certain players that we need to be aware of, just like they need to be aware of Abdul, right? There's certain players you better have a plan for, or they can make the game even more challenging than it needs to be. So we spent a ton of time on that, but we're going to have to go execute the plan against a really good team. And as you also know, if you're giving extra help on a defensive end, yes, that helps solve one of the problems that you have at defensive end, but then it also exposes you in other areas. So that's kind of the chess match, right? You're trying to solve one problem, and it does, but it also allows you or creates you being susceptible in other areas.
James, from what you've seen from Dillon Gabriel on tape, what makes him so hard to defend against?
Yeah, for me, the thing that stands out about him, it seems like he's been playing college football for like the last 10 years, and he's just so poised and relaxed. You watch him play, he just looks so relaxed, he looks so poised. You're not going to give him a whole lot that he hasn't seen before, and he's surrounded with really good talent. The running backs are really good. The tight end is a really good player. the receivers are dynamic. So, he's put himself in really good situations where he's played a ton of football. You got an experienced quarterback. Their play caller does a really good job of getting people in space. And he looks very comfortable and relaxed, and because of that, he's thrown for a very high percentage. You very rarely ever see him get rattled, and he's throwing the guys that can make plays for him. So it's a combination of skill, it's a combination of scheme, and it's a combination of the guys that he has around him plus experience.
As we saw both Trey and Elliott participating earlier, what's your level of confidence that those guys will be available this weekend?
It's good. It's good. But as you guys know, I don't get into a whole lot of that kind of stuff unless it's a long-term injury. But we have confidence that both those guys will be available to play. I think you saw them both out here contributing today.
James, what are the challenges of preparing for a team that wasn't on the schedule that you haven't faced before? Typically, Big Ten team know a little bit about them at least. What were some of the challenges, and how do you think you guys have handled it?
Yeah, well, I think that the good thing is they're in the same situation, right? So we've gotten to see them a decent amount in crossover games, kind of like the question earlier about similar opponents. You kind of follow what they're doing because they're doing some really nice things on offense, defense, and special teams. But it really just came down to a normal game week, probably very similar to what we've faced in terms of UCLA, USC, and Washington, new opponents that we don't have a whole lot of familiarity with. At least with them, you could do a little bit of summer studies and things like that. But at the end of the day, we got a week to get ready for these guys. We're maximizing that time, and I've been pleased so far with how the players and the staff have handled it.
James, you got all 26 guys in the 2025 class on today. Just overall first glance, what are your first impressions of that class?
Yeah, happy. One of the things that we take great pride in, knock on wood, that we have not had a whole lot of drama on signing day. We're very upfront and honest and transparent with the families and the kids that we recruit. They know what they're getting, we know what we're getting, and we typically don't have a whole lot of issues. Those guys sign, and and obviously we've been recruiting them for a long time and are pleased with the class. I was also very, very pleased with the staff in general. This was a very different signing day. It was just me and the recruiting staff. Usually it's our whole staff, but we can't afford to do that right now. So the rest of the staff was on football all day. I came in early and will stay late to make up for the time that I missed on football. But it was myself and the recruiting staff and the administrative staff did a phenomenal job having everything set up. And you're talking about not only was that different, but not having a national letter of intent this year, NIL contracts, all kinds of stuff, make it very, very challenging. And for us to not have any hiccups or any issues, to me was impressive. From the organization. That's a credit to Andy Frank and Kenny Sanders and Alan Zamitis and all those guys.
Two more guys. Do you think that this December model is sustainable, given everything today, portal coming, but also like do you think this is a long-term good thing for the sport, or this is all right?
Yeah, as you can imagine, I'd like to talk about Oregon, but I think it's a fair question. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to have one of the most important days of the year, which is signing day, which is very complex in today's college football, more complex than it's ever been. Oh, and by the way, you're about to play the number one team in the country in the conference championship game. Don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. There's been a lot of discussion for a long time that instead of kind of continuing to piecemeal and make changes to solve certain problems, we need to look at the whole thing holistically. The entire model, the rules, the calendar, all of it. But it is what it is, and I was pleased with our staff and how they handled it.
James, something we usually would ask at signing day press conference is kind of doubling up here a little bit. Now that you've signed this group, are there any positions that you see that remain a priority moving forward? There's still some time left in this period. There's still the February 2nd.
Yeah, I'll probably wait on that right now. There's a lot of different moving parts and a lot of things that are going on right now, and don't necessarily want to be talking about things that impact our current roster. I want to focus on the guys that we have now. I'm happy to answer that question once we kind of get through this, what our plan is for the transfer portal. I know what you're going to say. The transfer portal is about to open. I get it. But again, we're just trying to keep everybody as focused on the task at hand. I got the recruiting staff working on those other things, and we're focused on Oregon. But I promise you I will answer that question here when I think it's a little bit more appropriate.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jim.